Housing Not Handcuffs rally. We know that criminalization doesn't end homelessness. We know that jail and fines don't end homelessness. Housing ends homelessness. And that's what we're here to talk about today. If everyone wants to gather around this way, we have speakers, and I am really pleased to introduce our MC for the day, Stephanie Johnson, an organizer with Vocal Kentucky.
Thank you so much, and thank you everybody for coming out today. My name is Stephanie Johnson, and I am the statewide organizer and growth coordinator for Vocal Kentucky. That stands for Voices of Community Activists and Leaders. And we are fighting to end the failed war on drugs, mass incarceration, stopping the spread of HIV, AIDS, and Hep C, and last but definitely not least of importance, the houselessness issue. So there are 25 tents here today. They're set up in the park, but on any given night, 595 Louisvillians have nowhere to sleep but outdoors. So each tent here represents 24 people who are unsheltered on any given night in our city. So at the end of this, all tents will be donated to outreach workers for unhoused people following this event. Yeah. Loud clap. So today's speakers, they include Louisvillians that are directly impacted by homelessness, as well as federal, state, and local leaders. So our first speaker that we're going to have coming up today, her name is Lexa Harley. She's from Coalition for the Homeless Community Consulting Board. She's here to discuss lived experience of homelessness. Thank you.
Hi, thank you for allowing me to speak today. My name is Lexa Harley. I'm a member of the Community Consulting Board for the Coalition for the Homeless. I'm a mother, a grandmother, a student, and an advocate for those experiencing homelessness. I believe that housing is an essential foundation stone for families and their success. I am one personally that has lacked the critical need for most of my life. I was first homeless when I was 5 years old. I have slept in shelters, at bus stops, on church steps, and in cars. I never had a stepping stone. My mother before me also dealt with homelessness as a child, and then myself and even my children have all been affected by homelessness. This cycle of poverty and lack of resources was why my family story included housing instability. The worst feeling in the world is being a mom while homeless, watching your kids sleeping in a car while you watch around for authorities, hoping you don't get caught, hoping that you don't lose them, yet feeling horrible that you're in the situation to begin with. As a parent, you want to provide everything and more for your kids, but when you can't provide basic life necessities such as housing, it causes much sadness and despair. At this time, I looked in the rearview mirror at my kids and I see my face, because once upon a time that was me as a child, watching my mother try her best to rectify the situation we were experiencing. I've watched her call every church she could find while getting ready for school, because checkout at that hotel was at 11 and she had nowhere else to go. Since then, I've been housed since 2021, and thank you. And that is because I was able to attain help by utilizing the Coalition for the Homeless, the Common Assessment Team, and ultimately I was able to receive a long-term housing voucher that gave my family and I stability. So what I've been doing since then, I've been able to finally create a stable life for us. I'm in college studying for an associate's degree in medical assisting. I've been able to focus on my career. My kids are thriving. My grandson's doing great. My son is about to graduate.
All right.
And that, I believe, all builds from the foundation of not having to worry about where they're going to sleep after school. I'm finally able to say that in 2 years of being housed, I can follow my dreams. And I strongly believe that criminalizing homelessness will not address our severe lack of affordable housing. There are not enough shelter beds to meet the nightly needs of Kentuckians experiencing homelessness today.
Right, that ain't right.
It's not right. That's right. Therefore, penalizing these individuals and families like mine does not achieve that. It only creates more hurdles on the road to achieving the stable housing that they need. To meet the needs of our houseless neighbors, we must fund the services that work
Yeah.
We must remove barriers that keep people out of housing and stuck in this cycle of ultimate poverty and homelessness. The same services that I can say today help me get out of homelessness. And that's, thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Lexa. Our next speaker that we have coming up is going to be Mr. Michael Abate. He's from the Counsel of Record on the Johnson versus Grants Pass amicus brief, so to discuss the case.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me here today. My name is Mike Abate. I'm a lawyer here in Louisville. I practice constitutional law and other kind of general troublemaking around this town and this state. A couple of months ago, I got a call from a really good friend of mine in Washington, D.C., who I used to work with at the Department of Justice. Her name is Kelsey Brown Corcoran. And if any of you listened to the Supreme Court argument this morning, Kelsey represented the challengers to the law and did such a phenomenal job. Truly amazing. Kelsey asked if my team and my firm, we would consider helping out in the Grants Pass case that was argued today, and we immediately said yes, and we jumped right in. We got to represent an organization called the Local Progress Impact Lab. Some of you may be familiar with Local Progress. And on behalf of Local Progress and 156 current and former elected officials from cities and counties all across the country, we filed a brief with the Supreme Court today urging them to affirm what the Ninth Circuit did. I'm here to tell you just a little bit about the case so you understand what was at stake in the Supreme Court this morning. The city of Grants Pass, Oregon, passed this truly cruel and dehumanizing law that made it ultimately a crime to sleep outdoors with so much as a blanket or a pillow anywhere within the city limits. When at first the city tried just busing the homeless population out of town, trying to just, out of sight, out of mind. And that didn't work. Folks came back, and there were, obviously more people because the needs were so great. So they decided to pass a law to make it a crime, just to do basic human things outside if you couldn't afford housing. Even, when they passed the law, the members of the city council said on the record, we just want to make it so uncomfortable folks decide to leave on their own. We want people to essentially self-exile from our town.
That ain't right.
Nope, it's not. So the plaintiffs got together and challenged that law. They brought an Eighth Amendment challenge. This is a cruel and unusual punishment to criminalize, to arrest, or to cite somebody for sleeping outside when there's no available beds available in a housing shelter. That's a town that has one shelter. It's privately run by religious organization. There's certain requirements that a lot of people can't meet to go there, and there's fewer than 100 beds. And there's many, many times that of homeless population in Grants Pass. So the court entered an injunction that said, you can't arrest or cite people for sleeping outside if they've got nowhere else to go.
Right.
That went up to the Ninth Circuit, which is the federal court that oversees California and Oregon and a number of western states. Ninth Circuit agreed. A lot of us were very concerned when the Supreme Court agreed to hear the case because they didn't have to take this case. But we were proud to play a very small part in this effort representing an amicus group. It was really unprecedented. There were almost 50 amicus briefs filed on behalf of the challengers to the law, and there were over 1,000 signatories to those briefs. It's truly the most widespread effort I've ever seen in the Supreme Court. So we made 2 points, and I'm going to repeat them here, and then I'm going to pass this on to others who've got a lot more to tell you about the issues. But the 2 points that we made on behalf of these local elected officials are, first, that citing and arresting those people who have nowhere else to sleep isn't a solution. It makes the problem worse.
That's right.
We cited examples and research from the federal government, the Interagency Coalition on Homelessness, a federal 17-agency working group, has said over and over and told cities, you cannot arrest your way out of the homelessness problem. You cannot do it. It doesn't work, and it makes the problem worse. It cuts people off from the services that they need. It puts criminal records on people that are further barriers to obtaining housing and to obtaining jobs. It doesn't work. And the second point we made was that there is a solution that works, and it's one where there's a lot of evidence, and it's the housing first approach, right? It's where governments direct their resources to getting people into housing, pairing it with services that folks need, whether they're employment services, whether they're treatment services, whatever it is that they might need. Pairing those resources actually works. It gets people into housing, it keeps them in housing, and it improves life outcomes. So we were proud to file on behalf of elected officials because I'll tell you what, there were a lot of cities, even blue cities and blue counties and blue states, who filed briefs in support of Grants Pass and said, we need the tool of criminalization to get people into housing and services. And we strongly disagree with that. So we were proud to file a brief that said, no, the solution is build more housing and get people into housing. It's not arrest more people. So anyway, so it's too soon to say what the Supreme Court's going to do, notwithstanding my friend Kelsey's amazing efforts today. We will know by the end of June, but one thing to be clear about, nothing the Supreme Court says will require any city to enact a law like Grants Pass did, or like some folks closer to us have done. Yeah. So, it's still the power of local cities and counties and states to do the right thing and to choose housing over arresting.
Right. Housing not handcuffs. Housing first. Thank you, Michael Abate. That was great. Poverty is the 4th leading cause of death in our country. Yeah, so it just makes sense to house. Okay. Thank you again, Michael Abate. Next, we are going to bring up Representative Morgan McGarvey, and he's going to speak. He's from the U.S. House of Representatives to speak about the federal level.
Good afternoon. I am truly honored to be joining you all today to speak out against criminalization of homelessness.
Morgan McGarvey,
how
dare you come to talk to our communities about homelessness and criminalization when 2 days ago you voted to send $17 billion more tax dollars for weapons to Israel that has made millions homeless, damaged, or destroyed. 70% of all homes forced over 1 million people to live in tents. You are committing genocide in Gaza. We need those billions here to move home and send you
That's right.
to destroy homes and murder 40,000 Palestinians. You cannot condemn locking up unhoused folks while 10,000 Palestinians are being tortured by Israel in cages just for existing. You are complicit in genocide. Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
From the river to the sea!
From the river to the sea!
Palestine will be free!
Palestine will be free! I want your words to go for the anti-homelessness and for against genocide. We're waiting because all oppression is linked.
I am happy to talk about the need for a ceasefire, which we absolutely need right now. And that is serious and it's compelling. Today, we are going to talk about homelessness in our community, though. And I'm happy to continue meeting with people about the need for a ceasefire, the need to stop killing innocent people, and how we make that happen. I do want to talk about homelessness today and not detract from the good work that people here are doing. And I want to thank so much the Coalition for the Homeless, for Vocal Kentucky, for every other service provider and group that's here that is working and fighting to get Louisvillians and Kentuckians into stable, long-term housing. Look, I've heard a lot of great things said today. I think we've got this backwards. What's the real crime? Is the real crime being unhoused, or is the real crime criminalizing people who are unhoused? That is the real crime. The reality is, it's also not going to work. We simply cannot incarcerate our way out of this problem. How do we know that? We've seen it not work before. We tried incarcerating our way out of the drug problem. It didn't work. And unfortunately, so so many people and families had their lives torn apart in the decades that it took to look at the research and say we need treatment. Well, guess what? We have that now. And what we know today is that housing first is the policy that works. We have got to provide housing first. We've got to make sure that what we are doing is attacking the root cause of the problem, not simply swatting at a symptom. And if we do this, not only is it the right thing to do, but we're going to see it benefit our community. That's why I am proud to partner with local leaders, including Mayor Greenberg, including people like Councilwoman Shamika Parrish-Wright, Councilman Arthur. I see State Representative Sarah Stalker, who is here today, to prioritize housing first in our community. It's going to make an absolute world of difference for unhoused people in Louisville. That's why also in Congress, I have co-sponsored the Housing for All Act, the Ending Homelessness Act, the Fair Housing Improvement Act, the Housing Crisis Response Act, the Housing Access Act, and the Family Stability and Opportunity Vouchers Act, so that we can start investing federal dollars and resources into all communities across this country that need affordable housing now. The reality is this isn't just a Louisville problem. But if the Supreme Court rules the way that some are predicting, we have to make sure that what's happening in Grants Pass doesn't happen in cities around this country. That we continue to embrace our humanity, our compassion, and to provide housing for those who need it, and make sure that housing is a basic human right. Thank you guys so much for what you're doing.
All right, thank you all so much. Thank you all so much. Thank you again, Representative Morgan, McGarvey. Affordable housing now. Go ahead, Tip. Affordable housing now. 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 What do we want? Affordable housing now. And when do we want it? Now. What do we want? Affordable housing now. And that's when we want it. Now. Okay. Well, next, without any further ado, we're going to bring up Dr. Eric French from Antioch Missionary Baptist Church to share the moral argument against criminalization.
Good afternoon. I'm here today, as well as I see other members of the clergy here today, to say one simple thing. It is offensive to God. It is offensive to God to criminalize homelessness. Not for any crimes committed, but just for your status in life. So I'm just here to remind all of us that God has always been who live on the west side of Louisville. And that if you live under a viaduct, you have no worth. Well, the God we serve doesn't believe that. And then people have the audacity to say, well, the reason they're there is because, well, they have mental illness and they're drug addicts. One, that's not true. That the majority of people are not homeless because of mental illness or drug addiction. They're homeless because they can't find any place to live. Because most of us can't pay $1,000, $2,000 a month for a 2-bedroom apartment. But let me ask you this. Even if they do have mental illness, are they less than a person? No. Even if they do have an addiction, are they less than a person? No. Let's be honest, the majority of the people standing in front of me are living paycheck to paycheck. Amen. You're one car accident away from living on the streets. And just because you believe it can't happen to you doesn't mean it won't happen to you. So let's be real and let's be honest. What type of country are we going to be? Wow. Let's talk about that for them. What type of country are we going to be? I hear people running around talking about let's make America great again. Great for who and when? Great for who and when? When people say that, they're not talking about everybody, and they're definitely not talking about the homeless. I want to live in a country where my dignity isn't tied to where I live or how much I make. I want to live in a country I don't have to worry about being arrested because I have no place to live. We have the means to address homelessness. We've just taken the easy route. God has called us to solve problems, not move problems. And that's what the plan is right now. Not to solve the problem of homelessness, but to move it to where we can't see it. But just because we can't see it doesn't mean it isn't real. So how about we start living up to the ideals upon which this country was founded? That we all have been created equal, that we all have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Well, I got news for you. You can't be happy if you ain't got a home.
All right. Thank you very much. Dr. French. Woo! I don't even, okay. Next up, that just moved me, and I hope it moves some more people to do the right thing. So next up, we're going to bring Angie Johnson. It's from with Black Lives Matter to discuss lived experience in homelessness. Angie?
Well, what a lot of people don't know about me, that back in 2010, I was homeless. I was working 2 jobs. Both jobs folded at the same time. I had nowhere to go. I went to stay with family members, and then they were like, you've been here long enough, you gotta go. So then I ended up in the women's healing place on 16th and Broadway. From then, I had a breakdown because I was used to having a roof over my head. I was used to going to open up a refrigerator and eat what I want to eat, not what people put in front of me. So after all that, they diagnosed me with PTSD. So now they put me on medication. So I take my medicine faithfully, but I suffer. And every now and then you see me, I be crying for no reason. Don't know why I'm crying, I'm just crying. But now I understand it. Now I'm living in Dosker. Been there for 6 years, don't know what's gonna happen up there. They ain't telling us nothing. If they're gonna tear it down, if they're gonna give us vouchers or what. We don't know anything. So now we just living there from day to day, you know. And I want answers. I want to know if I'm going to have a roof over my head next week, the month after, or whatnot. Because there's nothing that scary than not knowing if I'm going to be back on these streets again. I am now 57 years old. I'd rather die than to live back on these streets, because I know how people disrespect you on these streets. They spit on you, they walk over you, they just treat you like you're a piece of dirt. I can't go backwards. My thing is, I just want to keep looking forward. I just want to keep knowing that tonight I can lay down in my bed and get up in my bed the next morning. So I'm calling on all city leaders to let us know what's going to happen up there in Dosker Manor, because we need to know. Not only that, but there's a lot of homeless people that I see every day, and I look at them and I say, Lord, that was me. And sometimes I just sit in my car and I just look at them and I bust out into tears, because I said, that was me once before. I see women on corners with children in strollers, and they holding these children on the side of a highway. And I say, oh my God, look what this has gotten to. What are we going to do to solve this homeless situation? It can't keep going on like this. Somebody, city leaders, y'all gonna have to take a stand. Y'all gonna have to get these people up off these streets. Y'all gonna have to build more affordable housing. I see a lot of empty fields around Louisville. My God. I mean, you got more empty fields than you have buildings, really. On those empty fields, you can build housing, affordable housing. People can't, I heard $800 for rent. A lot of people that's on disability or Social Security, whatnot, $800 is not a lot to live off of. $900, that's your whole check. So, and then you not taking into account, well, you gotta eat, you gotta clothe yourself, you need hygiene stuff and all this. How you gonna be able to pay rent and pay for your necessities that you need to live in period? So I'm calling on city leaders, let's build, when I say affordable housing, let's build affordable housing.
Thank you, Angie. You know what? When I say, what do we want? We want affordable housing. What do we want? Affordable housing. But when do we want it? Now. What do we want? Affordable housing. But when do we want it? Now. What do we want? Affordable housing. And when do we want it? Now. That's right. And so on that note, the flyer, the posters that you all have on the back, there is a QR code. You can scan this and it'll have our leaders hold them accountable. You can sign these, you can sign this so they can take some action on to getting some housing, because housing is a human right and everybody is created equal. That's what our Constitution says. So next up, we're going to bring up Representative Nima Kulkarni, Kentucky House State Representative, to discuss the state perspective.
Sorry, y'all. I gotta adjust this. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. And thank you. Thank all of you for being here. Today, the Supreme Court heard arguments in what is one of the most consequential cases in decades for those experiencing homelessness. This case will decide whether we as a society choose to make criminals out of those who are the most vulnerable, those who need our help and support to get back on their feet and into safe, sustainable, affordable housing. I want you all to take a look at the person standing next to you, the person standing behind you, the person standing in front of you. The majority of Americans today are living paycheck to paycheck. The most recent estimate is around 78% of us. That means more than 3/4 of the people living in America are barely making ends meet at the end of every month, after paying for basic necessities like food, rent, or gas. That includes many of us here. One emergency, one unplanned expense could put us in a cycle of debt that we can never escape. But because of the rising costs of living, because we have wages that have been stagnant, many of us are already going steadily further and further into debt just to exist in this country and in this Commonwealth, just to survive. When we talk about homelessness, we discuss it in terms of the homelessness issue, the homelessness crisis, the homelessness problem. We do not talk about the veterans suffering from PTSD. We do not talk about the son struggling with mental illness or the daughter who may have an intellectual disability. We do not talk about the single mother who is trying to keep her children safe as they live out of their car. We do not talk about the sister or the brother who is in the grip of addiction. We do not talk about the young person who is aged out of the system and has nowhere to go. The solution to homelessness is simple. What is it? Housing. Say it again. Housing. It's not a difficult solution, and it's not new. But what it needs to be successful is funding. And what we do not have right now is the political will to invest in our communities and in our people. What we are choosing to do instead, not just in Kentucky, but in states all across this nation, both red and blue, is to arrest and fine people who have nothing and have nowhere to go. Over 650,000 people in America experience homelessness on any given night. Half of them sleep outside. Many of them just need a little bit of help to get back on their feet. Interventions like short-term rental assistance are proven to get people off the street and onto the path to long-term housing stability. Those fleeing domestic abuse or who currently have no income because they lost their job. For those who need more support, we have to fund affordable housing assistance and wraparound services. Help them how to live independently. Connect them with community-based services for health care, for employment opportunities, for educational opportunities, anything that will help them. That's right. We have to set them up for success. We have to increase funding for our organizations like the Coalition for the Homeless that provide crisis response every single day. We can do this. And we can do it in a way that's cheaper. We can do it in a way that's more sustainable and more effective than locking people up. We can do this in a way that honors our duty to our fellow man, that keeps our community safe and lifts our people up out of poverty, out of addiction, and out of trauma. As a community, we can create ways to coordinate resources and services to end homelessness, not by fining and imprisoning those who have nowhere to go, but by giving them the tools to thrive. Today, the Supreme Court will hear from people who want the ability to criminalize homelessness, who want the authority to arrest their way out of homelessness. In 2018, the Ninth Circuit held in Johnson v. Grants Pass that it is cruel and unusual punishment to arrest or fine people for sleeping outside when they have nowhere to go. If the highest court in the land overturns this decision, it is up to us, all of us here in our city, in our state, to make sure that we enact local policies that treat people like people. And not like problems to be swept away. Housing is a human right. If we start with that fundamental premise that housing is a human right, it's easy. It's easy to know what policies are right and what policies are wrong. It's easy to see what solutions we need to implement and what the pathway is to end homelessness in our communities. Showing up for each other, like we're doing today, is a good start. Being willing to end decades of failed housing policy is a good start. Working to create a society that's dedicated to building a safe and healthy community for all of us is a good start. But we must be prepared to hold our elected representatives accountable, our agencies and departments accountable, and each other accountable for choosing the right path. I am proud to be here with all of you today and will continue to fight with you until we have secured basic human rights for every single person in our community. I want to thank you all again for all that you do, for all that you will continue to do for our community.
Thank you. Thank you for Arnie. What do we want? And when do we want it? Now. What do we want? Affordable housing. When do we want it? Now. What do we want? Affordable housing. What do we want? Affordable housing. And when do we want it? Now. Not now, but right now. That's right. Thank you so much, Representative Kulkarni. We have to invest in our people. That's why you have some of the stories, the people that are coming out here and giving their lived experience, their directly impacted experience. If we invest in people, I too was homeless. I too suffered from substance use disorder. I have mental health. I've been incarcerated. That's why I choose to fight so hard for our people, because it takes one to know one. And my mentor, my hero, and my boss, Miss Shamika Parrish Wright, who's also a councilwoman, but we'll keep that separate. She says that. She always says that we have to invest in our people. So without further ado, we have somebody else who has lived experience and is going through it right now. We're going to introduce one of our leaders from Vocal Kentucky, Mr. Marcus Senior Young Senior.
Thank you, Shamika. Thank you, Stephanie, and everyone else for being here as well. My name is Marcus Young Senior, and this is truly a privilege and a hard-pressing opportunity. For me, it'll never change. For all of my waywardness and all of my 44 years of living and being here today, God truly is the answer. In the world that we live in, and the country that we live in, as well as the world that we live in, one thing that we have the freedom of is the expression of defining what God is to us. So this is what I tell you that God is. God is the power that creates and sustains all, even within the power of being able to sustain yourself and beyond the ability to sustain yourself, such as something as simple as such subconscious sleeping. I've been looking at this young lady right here in front of me all afternoon who says justice takes sides. There are a few things that I believe are the biggest drawback to being able to move forward from the situation as far as houselessness. And what that is in order to feel like you want to undergo the path that provides housing and to work to obtain that housing, you first have to have a sense of self-worth. You first have to know that you deserve it, no matter what anybody says to you. So that means you have to have people that are willing to encourage you and let you know that you are worth it, and not worry about counting the cost that it takes to invest in you in order for you to obtain it. Something that I've heard said today several times that is very true is that what people don't want to give. But I tell you, out of all the homeless people that I know that I have a privilege of meeting with, and I have had the unfortunate circumstances of losing to death, is that one thing is not needed. It's not that we need you to give us everything. It's that we need you to make room for the gifts and the talents that are given to us. It's much less stressful for you to be in control of something and have someone that can assist you with keeping control. To be in control of something and have someone that can help you further develop it. To be in control of something and that can have somebody that can help you push it further along than you can by yourself or with only the ideas that come your way. That's what makes us all collective individuals. We're all individuals, but collectively we are one, united under a power that is, once again, I would say simply means creator, something beyond the ability of ourselves. Being hung up in personal judgment, being hung up in stereotypes, having a lack of compassion, and a refusal to not retaliate. Those are the things that has our senator hearing truths that are heartfelt about what is going on in the Gaza Strip. Because that's a refusal not to retaliate. That is saying housing for all, freedom for all, compassion for all. And it's not until we get to that point right there that we will see the change that we desire to see. That we will see the change that makes us who are housed be able to rest comfortably in our beds at night, have our rest restored while resting, and be able to get up with a sense of determination every day, just as Miss Wright does, Shamika Parrish Wright does every day, and be able to push forward and say, you know what? It's not about me. No matter what I'm going through, no matter what I've been through, it's about who I can help. It's about what we can do together. You know, there are a few points that we in Vocal Kentucky feel are very important to this grants pass and to this U.S. It's what we have titled as Vocal U.S. Grants Pass SCOTUS case. So I myself, and my lack of education, I'm a ninth grade dropout after flunking the ninth grade for the second time, and found myself an AB student at one of the most prestigious universities in the country, Sullivan University. You know, and it's not about me. I only say that to say what we can do as the power of we, because I had instructors that see me come in the door and say, hey, you know what? I don't care what your story is, what your past is. You're here because you want something different. Let me do what it takes to help you get that. You know, so we had a thing called Plus Fridays. Monday through Thursday, yeah, you're on your own. You got to be in here. You got to be listening. You got to be paying attention, reading your books, doing your homework and all that stuff. But on Fridays, that's when you get to come in and you get to make up for your lack of accomplishments Monday through Thursday. That's when you get to come in and you get to boost your grades. You know, that's when you get to come in and you get to restore yourself. You know, so a couple of things that we feel here is that one, Johnson versus Grants Pass is a court case that said it is cruel and unusual punishment to arrest or ticket people for sleeping outside when they have no other safe place to go. And that is true, you know, because many times there's the requirements. Like I myself, I honestly bypassed the opportunity for a 3 o'clock check-in at a shelter. Why would I do that? And I'm homeless and the streets are not safe? Because I know that I have gifts, I have skills, I have talents, I have the ability to learn a skill that someone will teach me that will only employ me and pay me if I'm available after 3 p.m. You know, and so, you know, and this is something that I really feel like is important to know. Homelessness is a symptom of years of underinvestment in housing and community that we're seeing across the cities, no matter their location or political leaning, which means their political placement. You know, we have gardens in the city that can feed us that are overrun. We have gardens in the city that can produce for us and give us a means of making income to support our housing people that are unattended to. And what's most embarrassing is that I hear every time I see a water company employee, I ask them, hey man, is it still said to be true that we have the cleanest water in the nation? And what they say to me is, yes, it is. I say, well, why is it that I can't go into a store anywhere and find a bottle of water that's bottled and sold, produced here in Louisville, Kentucky? That's a big stream of income. You know, we've got so many different types of water that you can go in the store and buy Avion on down. But you can't go and find any water bottled and produced here in Louisville, Kentucky and buy it. I don't know about anywhere else in the nation, but I haven't seen one here in Louisville, Kentucky. That's something that's within our control, especially for our politicians and our leaders. You know, something else is that the goal here is not to be controversial. You know, it is wrong to see a person seeking to empower themselves, seeking to make it just from today to tomorrow, and the best thing that they have to hold on to is a pillow and a blanket, and they're just trying to keep warm, make it through the night so they can get up tomorrow and try it again. And people with a key and a door that's locked that goes to it won't even help them out. You know, we'll ride past them and keep going, not even throw them out a bottle of water. You know, it's embarrassing. You know, I have been arrested for criminal trespassing. I just had an incident on Saturday night while I'm dealing with the police in my face where my brother was slaughtered here. House Bill 5, part of the biggest thing that came from House Bill 5 was us having a few families that were speaking for the majority of us who have suffered violence. They're not the only ones. Some of us have loved ones who we've lost to violence, and what we seek is a solution, not a punishment. You know, which is a resolution. So that's a regrouping. You know, and with that, I just want to say thank you for hearing me, and we are stronger together on any day than we are apart.
That's right. Thank you, Marcus. Thank you, Marcus. What do we want? When do we want it? What do we want? When do we want it? Not now? That's right. All right, so before I have Councilmember Corey Arthur come up and close us out, we have former Representative Charles Booker who come up and say a couple of words, please.
How you doing?
Run for mayor!
How y'all doing, family? All right, so I had to steal away from the Capitol to come down and tell you how much I love y'all. Thank you for lifting your voice right now. We are raising a standard right now. And as the country is reflecting on the fact that we're talking about humanity, housing is about humanity, and we know that there are people that don't see our humanity. I say our, and Councilwoman, I've always been grateful for your story. I've shared mine and the experience my mother and I had when we didn't have a place to stay. And the challenges we face do not mean we are not worthy. It doesn't mean we're criminals. So no, handcuffs will not be the solution. Corrupt politicians will not be the solution. We know what we need to do. The solutions have already existed for a long time. If we prioritize people and invest in people and do the repairing work that we need to do, we can end the crisis of people living without a roof over their heads. So I'm just here in solidarity because I know how exhausting this work is. So when we say housing, not handcuffs, we're saying love. We're saying healing. We're saying justice. We're saying we're tired of being ignored, and we're tired of people exploiting our pain and saying that we are criminals because we're hurting, because of greed. So I hope you feel inspired by this crowd. This is incredible. In the middle of the day, you're raising a standard. I hope you feel inspired because we're going to have to organize after leaving this space to tell our loved ones, to tell more people, to let our elected officials know. And I'll share this a little bit. Okay, I ain't trying not to get in trouble. Y'all know me. Y'all know what I do. So one of the main conversations and one of the main reasons why our governor vetoed House Bill 5 was because there is a principle that he and I believe in. And there were leaders that have called to say, listen, you're not a criminal because of your living situation. If anything, we have an obligation to extend our hand, to invest resources, to promote and to pursue and realize healing, not to discard you and throw you away. So we know the work is hard. We know that the veto was overridden, but we're still here and we're still fighting. And I'm gonna ask you, please keep fighting. Please keep fighting. Let me hear you one time. Housing, not handcuffs. Housing, not handcuffs. Housing, not handcuffs. Housing, not handcuffs. All right, Jacory, bring it home.
Tell McGarvey what's up. You know it, Booker. We're on our side.
Peace. I'm Councilman Jacory Arthur of Louisville Metro Council District 4. I love you. Our district represents everything that is right and wrong with the city of Louisville. I say wrong because we have one of the highest concentrations of poverty, unemployment, and housing instability, which leads us to have the most unhoused constituents. I say right because we are also the epicenter of people fighting for change, some of which has happened this decade. In 2023, Metro Council passed our anti-displacement law, banning government from pricing people out of their homes when they're helping with development. That took over 3 years of organizing, meeting with tenants, meeting with council members. I didn't do that. We did that. In 2022, Metro Council passed our ordinance approving almost $100 million of funding from the American Rescue Plan to address homelessness, 3 times the percentage of other cities on average. Again, that took a lot of meetings. Councilman Bill Hollander, I think I saw him out there. We met so many times with the administration, with our colleague Councilwoman Paula McCraney, and tenants and people to make that happen. I didn't do that. We did that. In 2021, we started a tradition of the city budget earmarking all of our affordable housing dollars specifically for households who are making the least of the least at 30% area median income. Again, I didn't do that. We did that. And there's no better example of something that we did together than when we gathered in 2020 right here in downtown Louisville, demanding revolutionary and radical change in the wake of our police department killing Breonna Taylor. I did not do that. We as a people did that together. So now what will we do? 2024 is special. It's the 60th anniversary of the Mississippi Freedom Summer. where thousands of people descended upon the state of Mississippi to work with locals to demand revolutionary radical change. And they changed the values of the Democratic Party forever. It's also the 60th anniversary of the March on Frankfurt, where thousands of our ancestors, some of whom which are still alive today, went to our state's capital and demanded civil rights. And when we got those civil rights years later, Martin King said it was the strongest, most comprehensive civil rights bill passed in the South. That was 60 years ago. Kentucky was worth fighting for then, and it's worth fighting for now. Louisville is worth fighting for now. Our people who are unhoused, sleeping in the streets, are worth fighting for now. So how do we fight? We invite our local government to join us in the belief that people deserve housing, not handcuffs. People deserve housing, not handcuffs. People deserve not handcuffs. So this means we need at least three things. Number one, support our ordinance to mandate that all of our public dollars that are used for housing go towards households who need it the most, making 30% of the area median income. This ordinance is currently in committee right now. And last week it was tabled because one of my colleagues, who I won't name, Dan Sine, he said he didn't understand the legislation, so he wanted to table it. James Baldwin said, you cannot fix what you will not face. That's right. That's right. And even if you don't understand poverty, I'm sure we can all see it, feel it. Some of us experience it. We have to take action, and that is a very simple action that my colleagues can take right now. Number two, we need to support an ordinance to create a right to shelter. That includes simplifying the shelter process, making sure we create a moratorium on camp clearings if you don't have anywhere to go or wraparound services, and also leveraging every single financial incentive that they ask the Economic Development Cabinet to support. Why are we supporting hotels and not reserving set-asides for people who are sleeping in the streets? And number three, we need to make sure that we fund and support real solutions to end homelessness, including in this next budget and every budget thereafter, at least $25 million for the Louisville Affordable Housing Trust Fund. These are solutions. And if you support these solutions, we are asking everyone in this city, everyone out here right now, call your mama, call your cousin, call your neighbor, call the people you go to church with, call the people you used to go to high school with, call everybody you know and ask them to visit louhomeless.org. Again, that's louhomeless.org. That's louhomeless.org. To sign our petition in support of these three very simple, common sense solutions to address homelessness in this city. The power of the people is stronger than the people in power, and this petition is a way for us to bring our people together to show our power. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much to all of our speakers, our representatives, our former representatives, all of our members, our leaders out there, people coming with the support. Here, I got one more action for you. Both louhomeless.org and this QR code. If you all really mean what you are here for, which I do believe, I want you to take the action to scan this QR code and then do the petition at louhomeless.org. And then I want you to tell 3 people. And I want you to tell those 3 people to tell 3 people. We've got to show up. We've got to keep showing up. Some people just don't know if they don't know, so we got to tell them, but chances are they know. So let's just keep spreading the word. We've got to do better. Thank you so much for everybody that came out today. Thank you, Coalition for the Homeless, putting this together. Vocal Kentucky, all the media, all our speakers, Black Lives Matter, ACLU Kentucky, I see you on here. Thank you all so much. Stay positive, stay in touch, be connected.